fighter has the highest fight IQ?
I don't think there's nobody in the game that has the fight IQ that I have.
Off the charts.
His fucking IQ
The
is
highest
insane.
fight IQ maybe ever.
This guy hits hard. He's tough. He's this, he's that. And this guy has a dream. But my fight IQ will win this fight.
Welcome to the Fight IQ podcast. This is another episode of Post-Fight Perspective. Let's get into it. First fight from this card, Veronica Hardy versus Eduardo Moura. I mean, Moura won.
Yep.
You know, that's pretty much that. Wasn't very
nice.
Not much happened. So I think we can move on there. Basel Hafez versus Oban Elliott. I liked this fight. I thought it was a little lackluster in the first two rounds. They were very close. I think first round you could have given to either one of them. I think round two Hafez did a little bit better, but then, you know, we got that round three KO in 40 seconds into the third round. Yeah. Really, really good win for Oban Elliott, especially for a guy who, you know, didn't have too many finishes on his record. A lot of decision wins by Oban Elliott, but now people are gonna start talking about him a little bit more after this one.
Yeah, dude, he got that Shale Sonnen jutsu before the fight.
Yeah,
it's power.
It's good to see too that he has knockout power late into a fight as well. Third rounds after, I know not a lot happened in the first two, but to be able to have that ability to finish somebody in the third round is pretty good to have, especially at welterweight.
Yeah, I always appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. No knock on Hafez either. I mean, he looked sharp up until that point. Like he looked pretty good. He was definitely giving Oban some problems here and there, and I think it maybe just gave Oban a little bit of pause at the beginning to make sure that he wasn't going to fall into something silly or end up hitting some strength that he wasn't prepared for. But really good work. That was a nice one.
All right. Up the card, Mickey Gall versus Ramy Brahimaj.
Yeah, that was a fun one there. You know, Mickey Gall, I don't know what more we need to say about Mickey Gall. I'm not sure why he's hanging around. I think he's 6 and 8 at this point, I think even.
I think now he's 7 and 7.
7 and 7? That's what I was thinking. But tough record there. I mean, you know, that's one of those guys where, you know, I guess if you just want to keep coming back, sure. But, you know, good on Ramy's, really nice knockout there in the first. Looked good, but it's against Mickey Gall, so I think there's a little bit of like, did you look good, or does it just look good against Mickey Gall?
Yeah, there's a little bit of that question there. I do think his kickboxing looked much improved. I think he looked very clean. He almost looked very, in terms of style, looked a little Arman Sarukian-y. Like, just in the way he was moving forward, the way he was throwing his kicks to the body. I think he looked great.
Yeah. Mickey Gall has always been one of those fighters that I feel like put the focus into the wrong aspects of his game. He came in as a jiu-jitsu guy and then like wanted to be like a stand and bang kickboxer. And that's not something you can do, like learn how to do while you're already in the UFC. You should already have at least a base, or you should really refine it to just punches essentially, rather than just trying to get in there and just think that you can kickbox with people that have been doing it for so long and you're just that inexperienced. Mickey Gall is just one of those people that favors hard sparring over learning the technical aspects of the game. And he's always been open about it. He's like, I just got in there hard sparring, you know, doing all that stuff. And he really doesn't have good kickboxing coaches. He's like started training with Joe Schilling, and then I feel like that was almost worse for him, you know?
Because he didn't like the technical kickboxing stuff? He just wanted to brawl, or what?
Yeah, he turned. I remember watching interviews of Mickey Gall prior to his fights, when he was really trying to say that he brought Joe Schilling in, you know, to help him out and all that good stuff. And he's like, we're doing lots of hard sparring, we're doing all this, and not really. I don't feel like he's improved much in these last few years. You know, if anything, his defense has always had gaping holes in it. That's why he gets finished so often.
Yeah,
but he is game. You know, he's down to get in there and trade with you. So
but that's what happens though. You get knocked out by Ramy Brahimaj in round one.
Kill or be killed, you know?
Yeah.
I guess.
Up the card, Marcin Tybura versus Jonata Diniz. And, bro, I told you so. Maybe not you
100%.
guys specifically. Listen, everybody, for some reason, when Diniz got matched up with Lewis, everybody was picking Diniz to beat Lewis. Like he was like this crazy one-punch knockout, technical, huge kickboxer. One, he's not even that big for a heavyweight. Two, his kickboxing is very sloppy. His defense is not good. And he has zero wrestling. I mean, when we were talking about the fight before the potential Lewis fight, I mean, I look back at his Glory record. He was 3-4 in Glory. Like, he wasn't even like one of these guys who you're like, oh, he was a beast in Glory. He's going to fucking have the kickboxing advantage over all these guys. No, turns out his kickboxing is decent for a heavyweight, which can get you by for a little bit. But then once you go against a guy like Marcin Tybura, who has experience against high-level strikers and can take you down and fuck you up like he did, I mean, I knew that was going to happen.
Yeah, Tybura has very effective grappling for that weight class.
Yeah.
Like, he kind of gets put in there with like a gatekeeper, but I think he's one of the best gatekeepers in that division because if you have bad grappling, he's going to fraud check you really quick.
Yes,
absolutely,
for sure.
And that was one of the things I think we saw with Diniz was, I mean, dude was starfishing straight legs on the canvas, not really even trying to do anything. Just didn't know what to do.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, a lot of people were picking Diniz to win this fight. And I just don't know what fights they were watching prior to this.
No.
I mean, anyway, I won't go too hard on that one. But
we all just have a hope that there's another Alex Pereira out there, and they just think he's still in Glory.
No, man. There's not a lot of those guys.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of those. And
great performance though.
Yeah.
From Tybura, like another great performance, a good finish, nasty elbows.
Should have been a finish. Herb could have pulled it off with a second left, and that would have been a better outcome than waiting for that.
Yeah,
his
would have
face was
looked a little
cut the
better
fuck up
for
bad.
his record.
That was bad.
Yeah. All right, next fight. Moving on to the regular prelims, David Onama versus Roberto Romero. Great performance by David Onama. Like, really good performance. He showed a lot of things in this fight. Not just clean boxing and kickboxing, but durability as well. I mean, the leg kicks that Romero was landing on him in round one, I mean, they looked like Onama's leg would have been just blown up after that, but they didn't really seem to be affecting him too much.
Yeah, he seemed to be able to weather the storm, and man, Roberto came out and was putting it on him. And at least in the first round, like, good on him for taking that fight short notice and being that guy.
Yeah, I mean, they knocked each other down. They both scored a knockdown in round one.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see Romero moving forward. If that's what he can do on short notice, I'm excited to see what he can do with a full camp. But Onama, great, crisp boxing and kickboxing, like really nice. Had a takedown with some ground control time in there. At one point was really close to it was either a Darce or an Anaconda. I think it was a Darce. I think it was a Darce as well. But that was like locked in. He just didn't quite he wasn't able to break him down and get the angle on it. But it was locked in, and it was pretty close. So he's with the takedown, he's chasing submissions on the ground as well. So I like to see that. And then just put it on him. 1 rounds 2 and 3. Really good job.
Yep. Great fight. Coming up the card, got Jim Miller versus Damon Jackson. Man, always got to bet with Jim Miller, man. You know, this is one of those fights for me where I think we can finally realize that a win over Damon Jackson, and even off of that, a win over Alexander Hernandez doesn't really mean anything. Like, I remember that was the biggest thing. It was Damon Jackson. He beat Alexander Hernandez. Like, okay, cool. Like, I mean, the last big moment that I remember from Alexander Hernandez, and I think a lot of people still do, was the Cowboy fight. Like, that's still the first thing that comes to my mind. He's had a bunch of performances since then, and he's had some success since then, but it doesn't seem to really mean much.
You can't give, like, crazy. I mean, he was a crazy situation because it's like when somebody gets a short notice opponent, it's always like some scrub. It'd be like if Joe Soto went in there and knocked out TJ Dillashaw in the first round when Hernandez knocked out Dariush, because it's like, what do we do with this guy, you know? He went out there and he flatlined Dariush real quick. It's like, do we give him like another top 10 guy? Like,
bro, that's the tough thing. He is one of those guys, like, at the beginning gets a really good win, and everyone, like, that propels his aura for like years. He doesn't need to do anything else. Everyone remembers that, and so they put him in good fights when it just may have been a fluke performance.
Yeah. For real.
Yeah.
But you know, Jim Miller pulling a nice gilly out of there. I can't be mad at that.
Really nice.
It was a good counter too. Yeah, off the single counter.
Really
nice. And we got to see the retirement of Damon Jackson, so no more Leech, which, you know,
appropriate. It's appropriate.
It's appropriate,
And look,
man.
he was
If you
a good
lost to Jim
fighter.
Miller in the first round.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's kind of only known for getting like highlight reeled against people, you know?
Yeah.
Like at this point, like.
Yeah, but he can go out there and have a war with decent fighters, you know.
Sure.
Yeah, it has happened, but
he
you know.
he hits a wall and he hits it hard.
Yeah. All right. Up the card.
I'm happy Chris Weidman got canceled. I'm happy that Eric Andrew. I was so happy that shit.
We literally like high-fived each other when we saw that the fight got canceled.
It was like, that would have been such a fucking lame fight, bro.
Yeah.
But Marcus McGhee versus Jonathan
fun,
Martinez. Yeah. This was a good fight.
Yeah.
You know, there wasn't as much volume striking out of Martinez as we would have wanted to see. McGhee McGhee kind of took on that role. He was the one pushing the pace with the striking. He outlanded. I mean, let's see. I can click on it right here and see what the total strike numbers were. Total strikes. McGhee doubled him. It was 105 strikes to 49. Not a very high volume strike fight in general, but McGhee doubled him. That being said, Jonathan Martinez had a really nice high guard the entire fight.
Yeah.
And McGhee didn't really land clean on him like at all. And then in the third round, dude, Martinez almost finished McGhee with leg kicks. He had McGhee hopping on one leg. Man, it was just a story of, you know, McGhee was too far ahead with the first two rounds, and that third round just didn't. It's too little, too late for Martinez.
Well, you know, I think it was a low IQ moment too, though. Jonathan Martinez had him almost there, and then decided he wanted to try and grapple.
Yeah.
That was just a poor decision. There was a lot of mistakes that were made in that third round where Jonathan Martinez had the opportunity to turn it around. He really did.
He did, but that being said, like, Marcus McGhee has really good defense in terms of not getting hit with strikes to the head, and it was McGee's right leg and southpaw stance that was getting hurt, and he just did a really good job of switching to orthodox and hiding the leg, and that was the only target that Martinez was able to hit. So it was a matter of McGhee just hid that target, and now Martinez just can't really land on him because that was the only thing that he was hitting.
Yeah, it was a really good defensive performance from Marcus McGhee too. I feel like in the first two rounds, Martinez was going for the leg kicks, but he was pulling his leg back. You know, he was checking a few of them, so he was pretty defensively sound until he started slowing down in the third round. But I feel like Martinez is going to be kicking himself for the low output and very defensive style that he had, because it was a very winnable fight for him.
Yeah.
It was something that if his defense was there, he just wasn't really giving anything back. But at the same time, when he was attempting to come back and get momentum going, McGhee was doing a great job defensively by nullifying that too. Because I just remember watching the fight, and I was like, this isn't like two people that suck are fighting. It's like two people that are so defensively sound that they're just struggling to find openings. You know?
That's what I saw too. But yeah, like you said, it was a very winnable fight for Martinez, and what we saw in round 3, like, that's what I thought we were going to see from round 1 when I was trying to predict this fight. But you know, McGhee definitely has a really strong counter game, so maybe Martinez just felt like, you know, he was a little tentative because he didn't want to get hit with those counters. But
the speed advantage was real.
Yeah.
There's an interesting thing, though, that, you know, now they've mentioned it twice, where the last 2 times that Jonathan Martinez has gone out, they're given this, oh, man, you know, he doesn't look like he used to. He looks like he doesn't know what to do in there. And it's like, if you start seeing that fight after fight after fight, there sounds like something needs to change. Something in what you're doing is not working. If you're going to be that slow of a starter, you know, multiple fights in a row, that becomes problematic, especially when you're having fights go to decision, because then you're automatically starting down.
Yeah, I don't.
So
I agree with that.
it's tough, He's. I think something needs to change for Jonathan Martinez. That's 2 fights in a row where he's looking like he got stage fright.
Yeah, I agree.
Until the 3rd round, and then it's too late.
Let's move on to the main card.
Yep.
Mauricio Ruffy versus James Lontop.
Let's go fight nerds.
Yeah.
Let's go fight nerds.
Another win for the fight nerds,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, I heard people talking about they weren't super impressed with Ruffy's performance. Bro, he just fought a welterweight. What are you talking about? Like, he almost KO'd him twice. The right hand that he landed in the first round, I believe, and then that fadeaway left hook.
He was hitting intercepting counters that would have flatlined anybody.
Yeah.
More than the 2 big ones that like dropped him. Like, there was intercepting counters in there that were insane. Like, square dead in the middle of their face while he's coming into the punch, slipping off to the center line and landing his own. Yeah, it's like oof. Yeah,
I thought
that
was
like a baseball bat to the face.
Yeah, I thought that was a great performance. And I've got we're just starting to do the fighter IQ rankings, so I'm keeping them on the low until we have enough data, really. But here, Ruffy, how did he score? Ruffy was 3rd best score of the card with 37.7 out of 50. If he would have got a finish, it probably would have pushed him up into the 40s range. But I thought that was a great performance. That's about as good of a performance as you can have without getting a finish, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was one of those moments where there were so many moments that would have been a finish had it not been probably at a catch weight against a much bigger opponent. I mean, man, that look away check hook.
Yeah.
So nice.
So nice. And really had Lontop in trouble. In a few moments.
His face was fucked up, bro. At the end of the fight, and then another thing too is you could tell Mauricio Ruffy was going to make 155, maybe 154.
Yeah,
and then you could tell that Lontop, didn't he weigh in 167? Did he
still missed weight even at catch weight.
We're gonna do super lightweight catch weight 165. They officially named it super lightweight 165 weight class, and he missed weight there too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's dang, dude, this guy,
and it was short notice. It was on short notice, and he's a big lightweight, but
I don't know.
No excuse.
That's tough.
No excuse. Regardless, Ruffy did what he did against someone who weighed in at welterweight. So, I'm impressed. But let's move up. Viviane Araújo versus Karine Silva.
Oh boy.
I really like this fight, honestly. It was a great performance for Viviane Araújo, and I want to say she really did her homework in this fight. She really knew what problems Karine Silva was going to bring to the table, and she was able to nullify them using the skill set she had. She was able to fight off the back foot to avoid the, getting smothered. She wasn't always successful, but for the most part, on the back foot, landing the better shots. She wasn't running away. She was just backing away, pulling her into her strikes. Very offensive while just maintaining a good distance. So, she really had a strong game plan, and she implemented it well. And then she had answers for all of the grappling exchanges that Silva brought too. She was in trouble, but, she had answers. She had really good submission defense and was able to at least – she even had a couple really close I think it was a close armbar. On Silva as well. She did. It's she was, even though she was in the disadvantage grappling wise, she was still able to be offensive, which just shows me she's well rounded to compete anywhere.
Yeah, and just looking at the numbers, Araújo outlanded her in total strikes 105 to 76, so a pretty decent margin. Araújo with 3 takedowns to Karine Silva's 1. Really good work. They both had a sub attempt. I think Araújo's was a bit closer.
I think so too.
But yeah, Araújo was doing a really, really good job of fighting off the back foot. Karine Silva could have been much cleaner in the way she was pressuring, but Araújo was landing really, really nice uppercuts That's like specifically what I remember were some of her best weapons in this fight were those uppercuts moving on the back foot. Really, really nice.
Yeah.
Because Karine Silva does kind of pressure with her like hands out a little bit, and it's just open for that uppercut that Viviani was definitely landing.
I mean, my one takeaway with this one for Silva is the conditioning can't be that bad.
She was pushing pressure. I mean, maybe she just needs to pace herself better because she was.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it was a energy management on the feet type of thing. She's not a striker. She's a grappler. You could tell she has heavy hands. So it's like if she connects, it's going to be a problem regardless. But since so much of the fight was her having to follow somebody with good footwork and, taking angles, she's going to get really tired.
Yeah. Needs to work on that energy management on the feet. On to the next fight, though. Bo Nickal versus Paul Craig. This was the worst fight on the card.
By far. By far.
Yeah, and listen, I'm going to start this out with something that I said before the video. Bo Nickal is never going to touch the top 15. He'll get a top 15 matchup at some point. And there are some people in the top 15 that maybe he would match up decently against. But listen, maybe for one fight, he's like ranked number 14 or 15. But the fact of the matter is his striking is extremely low level, like extremely low level. He was nervous. I think this is just my opinion, but he didn't shoot for a single takedown. He never really had that much success on the feet. And it would... you'd kind of think that at some point he would think about a takedown. I think he was nervous about the jiu-jitsu game. I think if he fights anybody who actually is a submission threat, he's not going to be able to have success on the ground, and then he's going to get pieced up on the feet. I just don't think, he's got great wrestling, obviously. Pure wrestling is fantastic. But I just don't think in MMA, I just don't think he has the skill set necessary to really fight at the highest level.
I think I have to agree with you there. I mean, I'm even just looking at the rankings above him, and there's very few fights above where he is now where he realizes a lot of success.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I really, it's really early in his career to be this far up.
He should be he should be on the regional scene still, in my opinion.
I mean, I'm even fine with getting him here, right?
Yeah, he's getting UFC caliber wins. They're in the UFC and he's getting wins. So
yeah,
I feel like he belongs here. He hasn't lost yet in the UFC, so it's kind of hard to say he should be regional.
I still think he should be regional. We see I don't know if you ever watched Dana White's Looking for a Fight on YouTube, whatever. He'll go to a regional fight card, watch it, and there are standout names where people will be like, oh, pay attention to this dude on the card, this dude on the card. And so he'll watch that fight and he'll be like, all right, the guy won. It looked impressive, but I need to see him get a couple more wins. I feel like that's Bo Nickal. I think just because of his college wrestling accolades, we want to throw him in and be like, oh, he's high-level MMA ready. I just don't think he is.
No, but I mean, I'm thinking about Trayshawn Gore. We were talking about this earlier. Trayshawn Gore has the same amount of fights as Bo Nickal. I'm fine with him being in the UFC, but I think what we're doing is we're essentially trying to force a fighter that's not ready to be at this level of competition to be at that level of competition.
But I think
it's like an Alexander Hernandez, right? It's like, oh man, this guy is going to be the fucking guy or whatever, and then it's
but to Alex Hernandez,
realizing that success eventually.
He's winning by finish. So it's like, what do they do, bro? Because the narrative before this fight, bro, was when is Bo Nickal going to fight somebody real? That's what everybody was saying. They were all saying, hey, he's a can crusher. When is he going to fight somebody real? And he's the one that's, if anything, pumping the brakes and stalling his career out to bring his skill set up to the table here, because even he was reluctant to start fighting higher caliber opponents and reminding people that he's only been fighting professionally since
he should be reluctant because his skills aren't there.
Yeah, and everybody else, and I'm pretty sure the UFC and as well are wanting to push him up because he's winning so much. And he was winning by finish before this fight, so it's like,
listen, Paul Craig is the best win of his career, and Paul Craig is an old fighter on his way out. I mean, it just is what it is. And even when Paul Craig was in his prime, he's got great triangles and a great submission game. So sure, he can catch one every now and again. But realistically, Paul Craig is not this fighter that I wouldn't even consider him a gatekeeper. He's not a guy that's like, oh, you got to win over Paul Craig. That's serious. I don't think he's like.
I really think that Paul Craig's skill set is like it's like a meme skill set, bro. He just has like really big kicks, and then he pulls guard and finds like fluke submissions. It's just like he's had that success against so many people that are actually like good fighters at light heavyweight. There is a skill set difference between middleweight and light heavyweight, obviously. But I mean, Paul Craig does have good wins over like Jamal Hill, Shogun. He beat Shogun Hua, dude. Crazy. He beat Ankalaev on the way up.
But it's not applicable to this conversation with Bo. It's just not.
I agree with you guys. I don't think he's ready for the top 15. I think he would admit that too. It was a rough performance from Bo Nickal, but I feel like if you were to judge him based off his fights prior to this, we were all saying, when is he going to fight somebody real, bro? And this is the first time he's fought somebody that's been in there with experienced. He's been in there with very dangerous punchers. Volkan Ozdemir.
You might not like this comparison. I think Bo Nickal is the Jake Paul of MMA.
Whoa.
That's a bad comparison. I was going to say that he, and I was setting this point up earlier. I was going to say that he's what would happen if Mickey Gall made the right decisions in his career training-wise.
No, dude, no.
Somebody with a grappling background that needs to make a transition to MMA, that's like, that needs to learn a whole nother skill set.
Man,
right.
Here's why I have this view on Bo Nickal. He's a guy that people were talking about him before he even fought in the UFC. So he's like somewhat famous before he's even fought. And then all of his wins are like, you can't rate them highly at all. And then this win over Paul Craig is like a Jake Paul win over a Nate Diaz or something like that. It's like, he fought a real fighter, but he fought like the least real fighter you could possibly fight. And it's like, dude, stop edging us. Highly at all. Stop edging us. Just fight a real fighter. Stop. If you're talking in interviews about you and Hamzat need to fight eventually, you would have done the same thing to Robert Whittaker that Hamzat did. You can't be talking like that and then be like, oh, look, I just beat Paul Craig. I fought a real fighter. It's like, dude, we see what you're doing. That's technically a real fighter, yes, but it's like,
So maybe here's the more I think about it, the more I do remember the whole narrative of like everybody was telling Bo Nickal, oh yeah, when's Bo Nickal gonna fight a real? But I wonder how much of that is the UFC putting unnecessary hype behind this guy and people responding with okay, but why are we hyping him so much until we see him fight a real fighter?
I mean, they just do the same. They did the same thing with Sean O'Malley, bro. But
but Sean O'Malley can actually fucking back it up, dude.
They put him in big spots. Yeah, he could back it up against like fucking Eddie Winelands, bro, and like Chris Montigno. He made it all the way up to the title, bro. But won the title. Bo Nickal.
Okay, but I would consider. I would say Paul Craig is like an Eddie Wineland level of opponent, like at that point in O'Malley's career. And bro, look what O'Malley did to Wineland. Look what Bo Nickal did to Paul Craig. Absolutely nothing. Totally different fights.
Fair.
Look what
should have walked through him if they were hyping it like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like when O'Malley was given this type of opponent, he fucked him up. When Bo Nickal is given this type of opponent, he has a performance where you're like, wow, that was not good.
That was terrible.
Yeah.
One thing though is it should be mentioned. Paul Craig put on an ass performance and was taunting and shit, bro. It was fucking lame to see.
He scored very low on the fight IQ ranking.
Yeah, what did he score? Just so the people know.
Just so
the people know that he's probably our lowest ranked fighter.
Paul Craig scored a 18.7 out of 50.
Woo!
That's very bad. Bo Nickal with a win only scored a 26.3.
Hey,
But,
numbers don't
you
lie.
know,
The numbers don't lie.
I think that's you know what I mean? I feel so strongly about the Bo Nickal thing, but hey, look, he was still able to get a halfway decent score off a really boring fight. All right, I don't want to talk about that fight anymore. Let's move up to the co-main event. Charles Oliveira versus Michael Chandler.
Jesus Christ,
this
man.
fight, bro.
Oh,
This
wow.
fight, bro.
Wow.
Fun one. It was a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff happened in that one for sure.
Yeah, Chandler.
A lot of fouls, bro.
Chandler's
Chandler's a
only
fucking
moment.
dirty fighter, bro.
Yeah, Chandler's
And
only
he's been
moment.
consistently dirty. I feel like every fight that Chandler's been in, somebody mentioned something.
One thing,
Like wasn't it Poirier that mentioned he was like fish hooking
Poirier.
or some shit?
Eye gouging, fish hooking. He
Yeah.
blew out his bloody snot bubble into his eyes. But dude, one thing that I will fucking say that makes his shooting so much worse is he tries to hide it, bro.
Yes.
Like he'll do it behind his back. He'll grab the cage behind his back, dude. I saw that happening a lot. He'll fucking turn and then grab it underneath here.
Yeah.
So like you can't see it, bro. Like
Yeah,
So
no
it's very
cheating.
intentional. He knows.
Yeah,
He
of course.
knows.
He's
Of
fucking
course he
cheating, bro.
does. Of course he does, especially after the Poirier fight. It was like blatantly obvious.
Yeah.
But Charles
After those
Oliveira had a
14
good
back of
performance.
the headshots, it was blatantly obvious for sure.
Bro,
Jeez.
that was fucked up. And honestly, what was that? Mark Goddard? What the?
No, it was
Keith Peterson. Yeah. Oh my
Dude,
God. I mean,
I bet
that's
he
on
smelled like
that's on
alcohol.
Keith Peterson. Look, it's fucked up that Chandler was blatantly, knowingly hitting Oliveira to the back of the head, but it's on Keith Peterson to step in and be like, "Yo, what the hell are you doing? You need to stop." I think he should have taken a point for that.
It was a significant amount, and it seemed to have changed the dynamic of the fight in that moment.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, what makes this performance even more impressive to me is, one, more dominant than the first fight. That whenever you got guys rematching, and then the guy who won the first time wins even more impressively the second time. Like, say what you will about Leon Edwards, but that's why I was so impressed with I was more impressed with the second win over Usman, obviously.
Yes. Less of that last minute knockout, more of a dominance.
Yeah, but also Oliveira said after the fight that he tore something in his knee like two or 3 weeks ago, which makes it even more impressive.
5 rounds like that.
Yeah.
5 rounds
And
like that with
that's-
a torn knee without training for 20
Yeah,
days.
and that's the thing against Michael Chandler too, who is one of those guys where you have to weather that storm.
Mm-hmm.
You
But
don't
there
get a
was no
choice.
storm.
He's gonna force it.
There was no storm, and I want to bring this up too, because leading up to the fight, Chandler was even saying, "Oh, you're going to see a much more patient Michael Chandler, and that because of that, I'm going to last all the rounds, and I'm going to, do better in whatever." Honestly, I don't want to see patient Michael Chandler. The way Michael Chandler fights is what makes him Michael Chandler. If he's patient, his skills don't seem up to the task of this level of competition. I think he needs that recklessness, craziness to actually compete with guys like this because he's so powerful.
He's incapable of having a performance like Justin Gaethje did against Tony Ferguson. He's incapable of it.
Yeah.
He is like designed to create that chaos and big moments, big explosions. That's where all of his success comes from.
Yes.
So I felt like it was not the best game plan to go out there and be patient with Oliveira. Like he should have been.
Oliveira's not the guy.
No.
Creating the chaos, and he even found that in the 5th round. When he started catching him.
Yeah, it was because he was just switching to big explosive punches instead of
he was going for broke.
Yeah.
Down 4-0.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, he got Oliveira into the position that he got him into. It's just that once they got there, he was blatantly hitting the back of the head every single strike, every single one. And it wasn't like
14
it wasn't
strikes,
like
bro.
it wasn't like Oliveira was going like this, and it was the only place. He could have put some side action on it and caught him.
Yeah.
But
No, it was straight down.
forearm.
Straight down.
Forearm to like the whole back of the neck,
Yeah,
dude.
forearm.
And like in the worst possible spot, dude. It was infuriating to watch, bro. Because we're all like familiar with that boxer that got those rabbit punches,
Yeah.
dude, and now he's like a fucking
Yeah.
vegetable, bro. Like, what if that happened to Oliveira, bro?
Yeah.
And then Michael Chandler's over here fucking being cute on the mic, calling for fucking Max Holloway afterwards, bro. It's like, bro, win a fucking fight, dude. You're off for 2 years. You have a shit performance.
Yeah. Oh, dude, don't worry. After this, I'm putting out a solo video of who I think some of these guys should fight next. I think you'll like. I think you'll like who I have for Chandler.
That 5th round.
I hope it's
Michael
Dan
Chandler's
Hooker.
career. Mm-hmm.
Don't worry. It's not.
I hope it's Dan Hooker.
It's not.
I think that'd be a great rematch for
It's
Michael
not.
Chandler.
It's not. I think Dan Hooker deserves better than that. But onto the main event. Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic. I mean, dude.
Good Lord.
He does it
Jon
again.
Jones
Looks better than ever, if I'm being completely honest with you.
That's the best Jon Jones we've seen in a long time.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's just because he was fighting Stipe Miocic.
No.
I think, like, bro, if Stipe was fighting anybody else, I think he would have looked a lot better.
Yeah. I mean, Stipe, and that's the thing is I don't think Stipe looked bad. I just think everybody looks a little worse against Jon Jones.
Yeah.
Jon Jones just brings a skill set that you're never going to see at heavyweight. Like, the closest person that would throw shit that Jon Jones is throwing is, like, Ciryl Gane. But there's no wrestling threat there. Like, Ciryl Gane's the really kick-heavy, like, you know. But even Ciryl Gane's kicks, bro, they're real point fighting. Like, if you watch Jon Jones, when he's kicking you, everything is doing damage, bro. That's just
there's
how
a
it is.
big
Everything's
there's a
doing
big
fucking
difference too, like what generates the power in Jon's kicks versus like a Ciryl Gane kick is because Jon moves forward. Jon pressures forward with his kicks. Ciryl Gane is dancing around the cage, point fight kicking. There's a big difference between Jon's kicks. You say what you will about Jon's boxing. Jon's boxing
His defense.
Jon's boxing is clearly to like set up other things. He's not trying to go for the finish with his boxing, but Jon's kicks they have ill intent on them.
Absolutely. And you can see him set up a very clear game plan. It's the same way that he got DC with the head kick. He switches into southpaw. He throws that teep, that kind of weird angled body kick over and over and over again. And Stipe started to do the same shit where he started to pull away, wanted to get his hands low to start blocking that kick. And that's where Jon sets up that southpaw head kick. He didn't have to in this case, but he attempted it again. And you can see that that's clearly a good arsenal shot for him.
Yeah, but that was what honestly probably Jon's biggest weapon in setting up that finish and being able to create the distance for it were those teep kicks. He was landing so many to the body of Stipe, and those alone were starting to have an effect on him. So now Stipe's thinking about straight kicks, and boom, switch stance, throw a kick that's not necessarily super straight, caught him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. You see guys like Jon do it, and Adesanya used to do it quite a lot, where he gets people kind of hypnotized. He throws enough different things at you where you just kind of get to this point where you're just not really sure what's coming, so you're kind of waiting to see what it's going to be. Yeah. And then he throws something like a spinning back kick at you.
Or, dude, there's a massive, like, he has you thinking about all these strikes, all these angles, having to defend yourself from all these kicks that are going to fucking knock you out to the body
and then it's
or
a
to
shot.
the head. And then it's a takedown. Yeah, it's a takedown. It's a fucking upper body trip, bro. Just a quick little, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And that's one where it's just like, that's not even a strength technique. Like Jon is way stronger and does get a lot of his takedowns, like historically, off of his strength. Like he is just very strong. He does a lot of Greco throws. He does a lot of Greco drag downs, but he went with a trip with the leg this time, and it was just a matter of it was there. Like that's one of those takedowns that just looks so clean because he wasn't trying to force that. He wasn't trying to set up that takedown. He got into a position where that takedown was there, and he's not afraid to do things like that. And
that's
so,
the Zabit. Yeah. That's the Zabit trip, right?
The
one that Zabit would always hit?
Yeah, essentially, yeah. But
that's
man,
bad fight IQ, man.
Yeah.
Jon Jones has got to be one of the best in the game with it, for sure. Man, overall, like really, really good card though. The only dud on the card was Bo Nickal versus Paul Craig. Besides that, like, and maybe Eduardo Mora versus Veronica Hardy wasn't very exciting. I mean, we just skipped right past that. But you know, you get it started at the beginning that way. Easy, quick first one.
Overall, really good card. That was another episode of Post Fight Perspective. Hope you guys enjoyed. Adios.
Peace.
Oh.